Whoops, daisies. Hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Ups and Downs. Lovely to see you again. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. We have a whopper episode for you this week because Erigah, she delivered. But before I get into that, I want to tell you something I'm really excited about, which is we have an extra special podcast episode. And in addition to our podcast episodes, which drop every single Tuesday, we have a special interview with Elias Toufexis, the actor who plays Locke in this very episode. Will be dropping audio tomorrow, video on Friday. So do keep an eye out for that. There's lots of really interesting little bits about how they developed the character of Locke and what went into playing him. I think you will really enjoy that. And it may even help some sad people after the end of today's episode. So with that, folks, take a trip with me as we jump straight into Discovery Season 5, Episode 7, Erigah. So we have moved straight on from last week's Whistle Speak, where we got a new clue for the progenitor's tech, or the location thereof. We will discuss that a little bit when we come to Stamets' side of this story. Now, the first up that's going to go to this episode is the lovely shot of both the Lockerer and the Discovery, and even more specifically, if you like, that pan down into the windows of Discovery. I actually love this shot because it's really evocative of a much earlier episode. And to discuss that one in detail, I'm going to go straight to my second up of the week, which is Commander Nan is back on board Discovery for at least this week. Lovely to see Rachel and Cheryl back again. I think I just want more of her. She's fun. She was fun in season 2, she was fun in season 3, except for when she went TikToking on that seed ship for a little while, for about 5 minutes really, until the taxi showed up, and then she went off and joined Federation Security. But anyway, that's where she is now. She is here because, of course, aboard that war pod is Maul and Locke. Starfleet has them cornered. What are they going to do with them? The callback, I realize we should do this in stage observations, but anyway, listen. It's very evocative of Nan's very first episode, nay, very first scene, just after she beams over from the Enterprise in the season 2 episode Brother. They walk along this corridor and, well, at the time when they looked up, it was one of those cavernous turbo shafts, wasn't it? But now it's a window open to space. And actually that makes sense because the neck of the Discovery A is slightly thinner, the more you notice. One of the fun things as well about Nan is that she is, although she arrived in the future with the Discovery, she has removed herself from Discovery's crew, and you could argue a little bit of the associations that they've built up. So my third up of the week is that she doesn't immediately trust Book again. As she says, the last time she saw Book, he was firing torpedoes and an isolytic burst at the ship. We had a little bit of back and forth in TrekCulture Towers about, she says photon torpedoes, we remembered quantum torpedoes, so, you know, we could, well, actually that now, Commander Nan. But also, she's gonna Kirk Fu me if I attempt to disagree. So we're going to move swiftly on from this point. She does a slight thawing at Burnham's, not insistence, but Burnham to say, look, you know, he's proving himself. He really is trying. And as Nan says, that's why I went easy on him. And yeah, having seen Nan in the past, she did go easy on him. Once Maul and Locke are beamed into sickbay, and there is a moment of, beaming someone directly to a bio-bed, that's not good. Because remember, the last time we saw Locke, he had a knife sticking out the side of him. Not exactly the position you want to be in. So he's beamed in, and Culber determines very quickly that things are not looking good for Locke. And as I increasingly like Maul every time I see her, is very protective. There's no performatism about this. This is about, he needs to live. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Reminds me of, I was a massive ER fan growing up. So all of those family members who would hover around surgery beds going, what are you doing? What are you? And would have to be escorted out of the room. The problem here being she can't really be escorted out of the room because, as Nan said, she will go ballistic. But at least she has heard Culber when he says, look, you need to let me treat him. You need to let me treat him. But seeing that panic in her eyes, it just goes to solidify how much they do care for each other, and we will see more of that as the episode goes on. They arrive then in Federation HQ because Starfleet says that they do have a Breen refrigeration unit left over from the Dominion War. Now, of course, that's 800 years previously. I mean, with the amount of technology we've seen about stasis chambers and everything, that actually, yeah. I mean, look at the state the ISS Enterprise was in. I'm not going to massively worry about the passage of time because the show isn't. They get this over to Discovery, but not before returning up for Admiral Vance, warns them that the Breen are coming. They have discovered that Maul and Locke are in Starfleet's possession. They really want Locke, of course, we know why. And Vance is understandably very uncomfortable and worried at this fact because, well, they all know what the Breen are capable of. In the absence of President Rillick, making me sad, miss you Rillick, President Tarina, who makes me very happy because she's brilliant, taken up, steps in to head a sort of mini rushed war council. Herself, Vance, Burnham, and Rayner sit around the table and discuss what to do with the advancing Breen Dreadnought class ship. And Rayner, perhaps once we discover a bit more why, perhaps a little understandably, is very much shoot first, ask questions later. That is a point that comes full circle in this episode, which I really like. I'm going to hold off on and up for a minute for that one. But unfortunately, the way he presents himself, as per usual, Rayner is like, right, I am the bull, ye are the china shop, here I go. And Burnham, in fairness, shuts him down pretty quickly. Not in a shut up kind of way, but wait for me outside. I do have a problem. It's this scene, but to discuss it, I want to discuss it in a little bit. All of the, kind of like breadcrumbs for you to follow this week, folks. Now, if you like, our side quest of the week, because it really does feel like one, is Tilly's about to leave Discovery because she's going to head to Starfleet Academy to look after her students. Stamets effectively goes, the most important thing in the galaxy right now is we need to figure out the clue to get to the progenitor's tech before anyone else does. He says, look, your students are at Starfleet Academy. It's probably the safest place where they can be. Federation HQ, probably the safest place they could be. Well, he wasn't on the bridge in Face the Strange now, was he? What's very important, and I think a big up of this episode, is that as the Maul and Locke seemingly A story is happening, Stamets is here to remind us that the B plot, which is the search for the progenitor's tech, is the A plot. Everything else is distraction. He is able to communicate that to Tilly in a way that we know Stamets of season 1 wouldn't have been able to. And it's not the first time or it's not the only time he does it either. That scene was a real standout for me. I know we're firing through the episode. It's a very quick-paced episode this week. Back in sickbay, Starfleet has beamed over the Breen refrigeration unit, and we get a little bit of a... I found this to be a bit of a knowing wink to the audience. Those of us who sit there and go, right, well, we're rewatching every episode featuring the Breen, aren't we? Because Culber, by the way, taken up to Culber's Snuggie, explains that there's something in the refrigeration unit, and particularly the cold of it, that allows Breen physiology to better effectively heal and regulate itself. There's been so much discussion over the last couple of weeks about Breen physiology from what we've now discovered about them, that they have this hard exoshell, if you like, and then they have their jelly Breen of the interior, and then of course the suit that covers all. And of course those of us then who go back to Weyoun in DS9 saying, actually the surface of Breen is a very temperate climate, it's not a frozen wasteland, what do they need the refrigeration suits for? Well, it seems to be self-regulation. I like that as well, because it's another little addition to lore without making any grandstanding statements, and certainly without taking anything away from what we've learned before. Please take a note. Once Burnham arrives in the room, leads to what I think is probably one of my favorite scenes in the episode. And it's funny because it's not like it's one of the bigger set pieces. So Burnham speaks to Locke and Maul, and she's trying to figure out, who are they? Why does the Breen Primarch Rune want them so much? And that's how she proceeds, with that assumption that it's them that she wants. It's definitely Maul and Locke. Question no, question no, question no. Realization: Locke is the scion. Locke is the key to ruling the Breen Imperium. That sequence of her figuring things out, that is an up from me. A whopper of an up, in fact. I like how it's paced, I love how it's delivered, and it makes sense to me. It's trial and error with the questions. There's not much given away by Maul and Locke as well. A couple of glances here or there, which Burnham picks up on. And of course, we as the audience, certainly we accept the way that it is. Meanwhile, on our A mission, we discover via Adira, credit where credit is due, taken up Adira, asks Zora to scan, because Zora is able to say that the card that they found in the final, sorry, not the final clue, in the clue on Helemno contains reference to a text called Labyrinths of the Mind. Adira is able to ask Zora, who would there be that might have or any kind of experience with old books? Labyrinth of the Mind being a book that was written by the Betazoid, Marina Derricks. And this narrows it down to none other than Commander Reno. Down, that's a bit convenient, isn't it? But up, Reno's in the episode. I have to down the small world of it all. Tilly and Adira sitting there asking Reno about, basically, you are skilled with antiquity. And Reno says, oh, I might have padded my resume a little bit with that one. And then she lists off what she's done. And sorry, I have to just read these out. She has been a VIP shuttle pilot, a deep mercury welder, a bartender on Achelon 4. Was that Rakosa 4, actually? She's got a guest shift tonight at Red's Lounge on Discovery, and you haven't lived until you've tasted her 7 of limes. Up, 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 up. Why am I upping a guest shift at Red Lounge? Why not? And just like, of course Reno's done all these things. Of course she has. And then Adira goes, wow, you've really got around. And then goes, oh, sorry. No, I don't mean like that. To which Reno answers, oh no, exactly like that. The amiable yet busy nature of Reno, who's saying, no, look, we will figure this out together. You know, come on, we'll all work on it together. And I like this. This is the crew working together that I think season 5 is doing so well. That, of course, leads straight into one of the most imposing parts of the episode, which is the arrival of the Breen Dreadnought ship and the shadow just blacking out those windows I liked so much just a moment ago. There is a crucial scene in this episode that is an up, but I'm going to discuss it down that I have with it as well. So let me just get a down in there on the count. And that is Raynor's backstory. Overall, up. I love learning more about him, learning a bit more about Kelleran, learning about why he has such an intense hatred of the Breen. Callum Keith Rennie delivers the hell out of this scene. It's also a crucial scene for delivering just the right amount of info that allows Burnham, and by extension, the Federation, to come up with this plan to at least stall Primarch Ruin so that they can work on either safeguarding Maul and Locke or figuring out where the heck the progenitor tech is. So you might be going, Sean, that sounds like you really enjoyed this scene. What's the down about? So we had a chat about this, and the down is that why didn't Raynor volunteer this information just after that chat in the war room? Now, I have a bit of a 50-50 way of looking at this, because I absolutely appreciate this is one of the most traumatic events of his life. You know, he is the only surviving member of his family. The Breen took over his homeworld and used it effectively as they say, a rearming port. They visited death down on the planet. Primarch Tahal effectively treated them like cattle. Yeah, that's not something I would particularly wear a button about that says, please ask me. That I get. 100%. It is not the kind of easy thing. My worry, my issue is that Raynor has been shown to be, out of everyone this season, he is the soldier. And he is also, although he's hot-headed, he is a commander and he is an experienced one. And he is all about, get me the intel, 20 words or less, get me the intel. This is crucial intel. This is how the Breen operate. So that, for me, is part of the down. The other part of this down is, surely this would have been in Raynor's service record. Surely it would have been. If not, and I'm being kind here, if not his specific experiences with his own family, surely as Burnham was researching Kelleran as a planet, I mean, this has to have happened within his lifetime. This is recent galactic history. That's going to be there, and it's going to be very, very, very obvious for anyone who finds. Are you going to tell me that nobody researched the Breen at all before this, and that there was nothing ticking anything off. And on top of this again, now this is still the same down, don't get me wrong, Vance surely would have known this. Vance served as Raynor for how long? And they consider themselves friends. So the reason it's a down the way that it is because there's too many little variables that this would never have come out. You know what I mean? That this is shocking information, or this is new information. And because it's so strategically important, I believe I've made my point. And then we get the up from it, thankfully, but also then leads into this great scene where they play the Primarch Ruin. They're able to say, well, Ruin is there, I will offer you your lives in exchange for Maul and Locke. Tarina initially, this is a great scene, where initially the Primarch beams in and speaks only in the Breen voice that we're used to. And he has an interpreter there beside him who goes, why should he negotiate? To which Tarina goes, he actually said he would not, I'm paraphrasing, lower himself to deal with such slime, weak worms. Massively paraphrasing there. But what I am not paraphrasing is the up that I'm giving to Tarina for that. I absolutely buy. She is a diplomat. Of course I believe that she would speak other languages. Was I expecting it to be Breen? No, I wasn't. Is it even cooler? Yeah, it is. And it makes the Primarch pause. It really works. And you have just that lineup as well as really good. You've got Vance, you've got Tarina, you've got Burnham, you've got Raynor, and you've got a heck load of security officers standing around. Then you also have the big group of Breen standing there as well. We get our standoff. The Primarch demands the handover of Maul and Locke. As of this moment, I'm mashing two scenes together here. Tarina says it'll take 4 hours. Primarch says you've got 1. Yes, so I've mashed a couple of scenes together there because, of course, the important part is the second meeting. Now, the problem with that second meeting is that there is a promise made the second time. So they're now holding the information, which is Primarch Tahal is going to offer us, way more for Maul and Locke. We don't need you. To which Ruin is just like, yeah, right. They do manage to negotiate them down, which the Breen doesn't negotiate, but this one does. Manage to negotiate them down and say, right, no harm must befall the Zion while he's in your custody. To which Tarina says, you have our word, he will not be harmed while they're in their custody. Meanwhile, on Discovery, Maul and Locke, obviously, they're just terrified that they're going to be forced into servitude, or that she could be killed or anything like that if the Primarch gets his hands on Locke. So they stage a daring escape. I like the exchange. Locke turns around and says, she's like, what's your idea? He's like, you're not going to like it. The plan is that she'll get out of the force field, run to Shuttle Bay, beam him off, and away they go. And now what she doesn't factor in is, of course, Nan's 23rd century Kirk Fu. We got some pretty good fisticuffs going around. The way to do this is that Locke deliberately injects himself with enough tricordrazine to effectively take down a rampaging elephant. Culber's panic in that scene, you can see it. He literally goes, you did this to yourself? This isn't, you gave yourself a boo-boo? It's like, oh no, Culber gets the stakes here. And as Maul is desperately trying to escape, she's clearly not thinking. Neither of them are. Locke obviously wasn't as well. The pair of them they are in fight or flight. And fight she does. She manages to get away from Nan, which is impressive. And, she gets almost as far as Shuttle Bay. Book is the one who realizes, oh, hang on, I can get to her. I know where she is. But again, Stamets comes through with all of this is fluff. All of it. We have to stick to our mission. Because Book has been working with Stamets. Stamets has been trying to eliminate where this Labyrinth of the Mind book might be, and he manages to hold Book to his point and says, no, I need you here. Book's like, I might be able to reach her. Stam's like, that doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. What matters is this clue. And the pace comes down for a second. Stamets goes, right, what do we know? Betazoids, telepaths, and Stamets manages to go, hang on, is there a chance that there's maybe a telepathic imprint on this? Because Book, you're an empath, can you check? Book takes the library ticket, and yes, there is. He sees the edge of raging plasma storms. Wonder what that could be. And having helped, then goes to help find Maul. I like that. It's a super important scene. And it's also, the MVP of this episode is Stamets. Stamets is the one keeping them on track. Stamets is the one keeping them to the mission. And credit where credit is due. He's smashing it. This leads to a confrontation in the hallway between Maul, Nan, Book, and a random officer who just got in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Nan does tell Maul, Locke made a mistake. Locke has poisoned himself. And Book confirms, this is true. Like, you need to come and talk to him now. And he does manage to, there's obviously a bit of back and forth, but he does manage to convince Maul that she needs to get to sickbay and she needs to do it now. Whereas aboard Federation HQ, we've just had this promise that Locke's gonna be absolutely fine. And the next thing, Burnham, this is Nan. Can I talk to you in private, please? And of course, Burnham comes in and is like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Culber's trying desperately to save Locke's life. And Culber says, I don't know enough about Breen physiology. And Burnham's like, oh, we're gonna have to tell the Breen, aren't we? And she does. There's no hesitation. Someone's life is at stake. She goes to the Breen bring their doctor. After everything fades away for a second, and it's just Maul and Locke. And you've got Maul, they lock eyes, and Maul just goes, this is not how our story ends. Up. My Latinum up of the week is the tragedy of Maul and Locke. I think we've known for a while that this was not going to have a particularly happy ending. Their lifestyle just didn't lend itself to that. Now we do of course get our stakes at the end. We get the threats from the Primarch, and Maul is the one to be like, we all know full well you didn't care about Locke. This was about the Ascension. This is about the throne. And, you know, he's like, you're a woman, I don't care about you. What are you talking to me for? And she goes, ha, nice try. And then shows that she has that mark scarred into her arm, which signifies her marriage to Locke. And of course, Locke has it on his hard form arm as well. And likewise, we had a conversation going, how does that work when he turns back to jelly again? Do you scar jelly? These are the deep thoughts that these episodes leave us with. Maul decides that she's going to put her trust in the Breen. Okay, there's a decision and a half, but because she knows something that she believes something at least that might make it not the end for her and Locke. Having decided she will go with the Breen, now the Federation are not about to just give her up. You know, we cut some nice nice scenes outside. We get a gorgeous shot of a ship I'll talk about in station observations. And there's this, again, hastily assembled council at which Book is present. He's there for, I think he's there for an important reason. There is a quick discussion around the table, because they have like 5 minutes to have this talk. And this discussion is needs of the many, needs of the few. That's in a nutshell. Tarina is the one to say, it seems that we have much to lose by not doing this, whereas we have not that much to lose by doing this, which is allowing Maul to go with the Breen. Book is vehemently against it because he thinks that's just delivering Maul to a death sentence. It's the only way to ensure that there won't be a war between the Breen and the Federation, at least that day, and he is outvoted by everyone, including Burnham. And he says, Burnham, this is wrong. My up for this scene is the question of who decides what's right or wrong when we're talking on a galactic scale. It is wrong to deliver someone to what could be torture and death. There is no question of that. And then you get the military decision being just like, do we throw an entire quadrant into war for one person? And if that is the case, what is the cost of this going to be? And it is frankly a cost that we're not willing to pay. Are they right? Are they wrong? Is anyone right? Can anyone be right in this situation? It's a heck of a question to go out on. You know, Book is right and also wrong. Everyone is right and also it's a chilling scene. But what it ends up with is that Maul does get transported over to the Breen and they leave. We get a great scene actually where they walk out and like all of the ships just kind of go, whoops, daisies. And the end of the episode sees us on our way to the next clue, which is located, in fact, in the Badlands, which I thought was a really cool reference. Now, shall you join me at Cetacean Observations? The Terran logo is present, of course, on the warpod from the ISS Enterprise. It makes perfect sense. That panning shot of the ship brings us back to that episode, Brother, and of course, Nan's very first episode. The reference to the fact that there is Breen tech on file. This, of course, is a hangover from the Dominion War. President Rillick is said to be on Tellar Prime for the events of this episode. We see the Breen logo once again. One thing that does bear at least a mention is that Fantastic to see President Tarina again. Whoops, this is the 3rd episode in a row without Saru? Where are you, Doug Jones? Come back to us, please. There is references to the last time Breen entered Federation space. That is, of course, The Changing Face of Evil, the episode of Season 7 of DS9 that saw the Breen attack and effectively destroy Federation headquarters on Earth. Rayner suggests that they use things like Thoron emitters and Duranium shadows to make the entirety of their small fleet look armed to the teeth. The exact same thing that the Changeling Martok, or we suspect the Changeling Martok, thought DS9 had done in the Way of the Warrior. There's a reference to the Romulans saying, never turn your back on a Breen. The USS Mitchell is one of the ships in place. There's a lot of references to a perhaps unsuspecting Star Trek Voyager episode in this, and that is the episode Dreadnought. In that episode, in the Delta Quadrant, Voyager encounters a Dreadnought missile that Torres reprogrammed for the Maquis back when she was in the Alpha Quadrant. Now, things like that. You have the Breen Dreadnought class vessel, so that's number 1. Reno suggests that she was a bartender on Achelon 4. Well, Achelon 5 was the target of the Dreadnought missile before it got pulled into the Badlands by the Caretaker, and it then kind of rethunk and assumed that Rokkosa 5 was its intended target. So there's some nice, and with the Achelon reference there, I mean, that has to be deliberate. Whoops, 7 of Limes. We were chatting about this. Obviously, Reno is from a time before 7 would have been alive, but 7 is captain of the Enterprise G. Surely she's done something to make the history books. Tarina suggests that suggesting a triple infestation may not get the job done for the Breen. Whoops. When Stamets is looking, he searches for things like beryllium and gadolinium. So beryllium we've seen in episodes before, in episodes of Enterprise, Voyager, The Next Generation, and the original series. And gadolinium we would know because Spock's computer was looking for the electron configuration of it in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. We get a reference to Golar beetles. Whoops. The name of Primarch Tahal's ship is the Tau Ceti. Burnham says that that was named after a type of viper, but of course we know Tau Ceti as the system from which the Traveler originated in The Next Generation. When they're trying to convince Maul that Locke has overdosed, she says, oh yeah, try and sell me a goat farm on Bopak 3, why don't you? Bopak 3 being the planet on which Goranagar and his Jem'Hadar troop were stranded in the episode Hippocratic Oath, where Bashir and O'Brien, well, more Bashir, tried to work on curing the Jem'Hadar from their Ketracel White addiction. O'Brien had different plans. Tricordrazine is a substance that we've seen several times before, and actually in The Next Generation a few times. It's to do with effectively what's the word I'm looking for? Waking people up. In Ethics, Yesterday's Enterprise, Who Watches the Watchers, Shades of Grey. In fact, tricordrazine, Captain Rachel Garrett was like, just pump me full of more tricordrazine. Crusher's like, you've had enough. And Garrett's like, I'm a captain. But yes, we've seen it several times in Star Trek before. These sexy ships that show up, we've got the new Constitution class ship, a great shot of that as it warps in. We also have our clearest shots of the Credence class ship to date in Star Trek. That's an up, sorry, that ship is gorgeous. There's also, of course, the Mitchell, there is the Lockerer as well, there's a Dresselhaus class ship there too. Nice to see them all. There's one thing none of us could quite understand about, so first of all, taken up for the Badlands making an appearance, however brief in this episode, but Book, by imprinting on this library ticket, is able to figure out it's the Badlands, which is where the gallery is now, despite there being rather a lot of conversation about how the gallery always moves, and in fact every 50 years or so, according to that final scene. How on earth could a scientist in the 24th century have known where it would be in the 32nd century? But the reason I'm not giving it down is because is there a pattern to these things? Does it cycle back eventually? Or is there just simply a psychic connection, not just between Marina Derricks and the library ticket, but between the library ticket and presumably this book? We'll see. But the question's there. Like 800 years later, how'd they find the bloody thing? And last but not least, that final discussion between Burnham and Rayner I really liked, when she says, Rayner, it must have been really difficult for you today with the Breen. I mutinied rather than give an inch to the Klingons. Taken up from that. I love the little reference to it, and I love the fact that Burnham seems to be finally forgiving herself for that. Whoops, daisies. that is everything for this list today, folks. Thank you so much. You are awesome. You are wonderful. Please let us know what you thought. Did I miss anything? Let me know. I will be talking to you soon, of course. Please don't forget to check out that really special interview that we have with Elias Tufexis. That will be dropping in the next couple of days. Audio, video, it's all there because we looks after you. You are wonderful. You're brilliant. Please follow us on all the various platforms. We're at TrekCulture. I'm at Sean Ferrick. Don't forget to follow at EditChrisEdit. Just like last week, folks, we are also, our wonderful writer Jack is putting together a written version of an Ups and Downs article for you to peruse as well. So please enjoy that. There's probably a link to it here somewhere. There's a lot of crossover, but they're different as well. So reading one is not necessarily a spoiler for the other. Do click on that. Thank you so much, Jack, for going through that. You're awesome. You're brilliant. Please, folks, whatever you do in the next week, lead with love, lead with kindness. To all of our friends out there who are going through, we can only imagine what. Stay safe if you can. Stay with the people who mean the most to you. Look after them. Look after yourselves. Live long and prosper. We will chat to you soon. Thanks very much. Whoop, daisies.